foundation of this lesson is that if A times B equals 0, then either A has to be 0 or B has to be 0. A has to be 0 or B has to be 0. This is a foundational property of solving equations. We want to use it all the way up. When you get into some of the higher maths, you'll actually use this to factor. Find a 0 and then use that 0 to find a factor, and then use division to find what's left over if you divide by that, and then find the zeros of that. And that's how we eventually are going to learn how to solve 5th, 6th, 7th power equations. Because a 5th degree equation has how many solutions? 5 solutions. Okay. Some of them may be multiple solutions, and some of them could be imaginary. But it's just, it could have 5 solutions. We've got to be able to find all 5 of them. This concept is going to carry through. So here's an example, simple example. One that's already factored, right? What is this the factorization of? Which quadratic equation?
X squared.
X squared plus 1x
Plus 20. Negative 20.
minus 20. So what we're doing here is solving this equation, but it's already given to us here in factored form. And why is factored form helpful to us here? Because we can find the zeros, right? If A times B is equal to 0, then either A equals 0 or B equals 0. And we can use these two mini equations to find the solutions of this quadratic equation. So x equals 4, x equals negative 5. Now, what have we found here, guys? Let's talk about what we found here as it relates to this quadratic expression.
Two possible two possible answers for x.
They're not just possible answers. They are the two x-intercepts. These are the two values where this quadratic expression is equal to 0. Okay, so where y is equal to 0, x is equal to 4, or x equals negative 5, that's the two x-intercepts of this parabola. But we find it by doing the zero product property. Okay, so how would we take that and extend it to something that looks like this? X squared plus 2x equals 8. Why do I want to get to 8 on the other side, Jackson? So it'll equal 0, and why do I want it to equal 0? So I can use the zero product rule, right? The zero product rule. I can factor the left side and use the zero product rule to find the zeros. Your instincts are fabulous. So what is the factorization of x squared plus 2x minus 8? Wilson?
X plus 4 times x.
X plus 4 and x minus 2. And so now I can quickly see that the two zeros are going to be either where x plus 4 equals 0, so that's x equals negative 4, or where x minus 2 equals 0, which would give us x equals 2. So my two solutions here are x equals negative 4 and x equals 2. Two solutions. Why does this have two solutions again? Because it's x to the second power, and a second degree equation has up to two solutions, right? So we can expect it to have two answers. Haley?
Will the answers always be the opposites of the...
They actually will be the opposites of the factors. Now, it's going to get a little bit more complicated than that if we have like 2x plus something times 3x plus something. Then it's the opposite divided by 2 and opposite divided by 3. So, but yes, there will always be an opposite relationship between our factors and our answers. And that's going to take us a little bit further into algebra, into the rational root theorem. It says if x, I'm going to show you this, just don't write this down. If x equals 7 is a 0, then x minus 7 is a factor. So we'll actually use the roots or the answers to work back to the factorization. Okay, so yeah, that's a good observation. Next problem, what do we need to do? Following suit with what we did in the last problem, we need it to equal what? 0. Because in order to solve this by factoring, We could find the roots by graphing, but we've done that already as well. But here we're finding the zeros by factoring. And I got to be able to factor this. Factors of negative 42 that add up to be negative 19. 21 and 2, negative 21 and 2, right? So I need negative 21x plus 2x from these two products. 7x squared only has 7x and x as a possibility. So that'll be 7x plus 2, x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so you can see now even more so than what we've done before in tomorrow's lesson or Monday's lesson, you'll see even further the importance of being able to factor things quickly. Okay, now if we set each of these equal to 0, I'm going to rush through this. Here we get x equals negative 2/7. Here we get x equals 3. Subtract 2 and divide by 7, you get negative 2/7. All right, next example. We just got 2 more of these, and we might run a minute over or so. Y'all just hang with me. What would we do first? You haven't even written this down. You need to be writing this down. What would we do first here?
Subtract 70.
I need to get everything equal to 0 and get this in standard form, right? So negative 2x squared plus 20x minus 50 equals 0. I think that's right. Right? I added 20x to both sides. I subtracted 70 from both sides and then arranged my terms in descending powers of x. Because this is an equation, I don't have to deal with that negative. I'm on 86 the negative. Change all the signs. Factor out of 2. Because this is an equation, I can just divide everything by 2. X squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 0. Agreed?
Agreed.
Brent, what's your question? Okay. Now, what are the factors of 25 that add up to be negative 10? Negative 5 and negative 5. So this would actually factor as x minus 5 squared equals 0. So this particular quadratic expression just has one unique root, right? What is it? X equals 5. This is one of those parabolas that sits on the graph. One x-intercept. Yeah, the vertex is at x equals 5.
Where did the 2 go?
I divided everything by 2 or multiplied by 1/2. Because it's an equation, we can do that. If we're just working with an expression, we have to factor out the 2 and leave it there. But I can divide everything in this equation by 2. That's a legal move and just makes things a lot easier, right? You don't worry about the 2. It's not going to factor into your answers. All right? I'm going to set this one up and then we'll be done. The area of a rectangular garden is 51 square yards. So we got length times width equals 51. The length is 14 more than the width. So my length is 14 plus the width times the width equals 51. Now what would we do to finish solving that? Distribute the w, right? W squared plus 14w minus 51 equals 0. And now we're solving exactly where we were before. Okay? If y'all want to have a look at that, it'll be online. We're not going to get to these. That's the 2 special cases. Remember, if you have 2 terms, how do you factor 2 terms? GCF, difference of squares. Okay, so there's just special factoring involved in those. You guys have a great weekend.